Let's start in the sunshine. We're in a field in Sweden, it's the height of summer, everything is bright, the flowers are blooming, and everyone is wearing white. It looks idyllic, but it doesn't feel that way. It's unusually quiet, and there doesn't seem to be a celebratory air in any shape or form. Then comes the cliff. If you've seen Ari Aster's Midsummer, you know exactly where we're going. We're watching a community called the Haga. They're celebrating a festival that only happens every 90 years, and part of this celebration involves two elders, a man and a woman, who have reached the end of their life cycle. They're 72 years old, they sit down for a meal, they share a toast. It looks like a wedding anniversary. It's quiet, respectful, and then they're carried up to a precipice that overlooks the valley. The woman goes first. She steps to the edge, looks at the sky, and drops. Moments later, the man follows. His ending isn't as swift as it could be, so a member of the commune is kind enough to bludgeon him to death with a wooden mallet. When we watch this in a theater or on our laptops in bed, our stomachs turn. We feel sick because it is quite brutal to witness. We see the impact, we see the aftermath, and it is a horror movie after all. But the people in the movie, the community standing in the grass below, they aren't horrified. In fact, they're quite joyful. To them, this isn't a tragedy, it's a gesture. They believe that instead of growing old, instead of withering away in pain and fear and shame, it's better to end things on their own terms. They think death is something to be welcomed once you've played your part. Now let's look at us. Let's look at how we handle the same concept. Because we definitely don't do that. The idea of checking out at the age of 72, regardless of our health, sounds insane to modern ears. We live in a world that is obsessed with the opposite. We are terrified of the end. We don't want to welcome death, we want to keep it at bay for as long as we can. We have access to the best medicine in human history. We know more about the human body than any civilization that came before us. We know about gut health, sleep hygiene, and the exact mineral content of our water, however useful that may be. We have billionaires, tech moguls, and venture capitalists who are currently spending fortunes trying to reverse their biological age. You've seen the headlines. There are men out there monitoring their vitals every second of the day, cancelling meetings because the air quality isn't optimal, and taking dozens of pills to ensure they live forever. They treat living like it's a high-stakes engineering project. And what about the rest of us? We might not have billions, but we are doing the same thing on a smaller scale. We are optimizing, we are tracking, and we are trying to buy time. But while we are obsessed with living longer, we are simultaneously doing everything we can to wreck the machinery. We want to live to be 100, but we also want the donuts and french fries. We have all these tools to supercharge our health, yet we actively poison ourselves every single day. We drink, we smoke, we eat food that has been processed until it barely qualifies as organic matter. We drown our organs in sugar and oil. It's a strange contradiction. We're terrified of dying, but we're addicted to the things that kill us. We want the quantity of life, but we aren't willing to do the work to improve the quality of it. So, what happens? Eventually, the bill comes due. The poison takes hold. We don't go out quickly like the couple on the cliff. We fade, we break down, we turn into frequent flyers at the doctor's office. We collect diagnoses like trading cards. We start taking one pill, another pill for the side effects of the first pill, and a third pill just to help us sleep through it all. This is the part that we ignore until we can't anymore. We've all seen it happen to someone we love. A grandmother who takes a bad fall and never really gets back on her feet. A father whose liver slowly gives up after years of hard living. An uncle who gets a diagnosis too late and spends his final months crying out for people who've been dead for over a decade. It's not a cinematic ending. It's not a noble gesture. It's a slow, humiliating decay. We see the people we looked up to, the people who raised us, the people who were strong and vibrant, turn into empty vessels. They're still there physically, the heart is beating, the lungs are inflating, but the person is gone. We keep them here because we can, because we're afraid to let go, because we think life just means a pulse. And when we're standing by that bedside, watching someone rot away in a sterile room, staring at a ceiling they don't recognize, that's the moment when the brutality of Midsummer starts to look a little less crazy. That's the moment we start to wonder if the Haga might be onto something. There are people in the real world who understand this better than we do. We don't have to look at fictional cults. We can look at the Pirahã tribe in the Amazon rainforest. If you've read Robert Greene's book Mastery, you'd know about the linguist and missionary Daniel Everett. Along with his family, he spent years with the Pirahã trying to understand their language and way of life. Both were informed by an extreme focus on the present, which made communicating about the past or future a very difficult task. Discussing things or events outside the vicinity of the immediate moment was almost an impossibility. They don't obsess over the past and they don't stress about the distant future. They're tuned into their present environment in a way we can't even imagine. Greene's book recounts a moment when a child in the tribe was near death. Everett was shocked by the attitudes of the village adults, nonchalant, aloof, and deadly. There seemed to be no concern for the child's recovery. In fact, death was preferred. First, several months into their stay, his wife and daughter nearly died from malaria. He was rather perturbed by the lack of empathy from the Pirahã about this. A little later, Everett and his wife tried desperately to nurse back to health a Pirahã infant that was gravely ill. The Pirahã was certain the baby would die, and seemed bothered by the missionaries' efforts. Then one day, Everett and his wife discovered the baby was dead. The Pirahã had forced alcohol down its throat to kill it. Although he tried to rationalize this event to himself, he could not help but feel some disgust. On another occasion, for apparently no reason, a group of Pirahã men had gotten very drunk and were looking for him in order to kill him. He managed to escape the threat, and nothing else ever happened, but it made him wonder about the safety of his family. These and a bunch of other incidents nudged him in the direction of quitting on his mission, until he joined the tribesmen on a hunting expedition. What he saw changed his mind. The Pirahã's senses were attuned to the natural environment far more than the average human. What they observed carried greater meaning beyond the initial sensory experience. They hear a rustle in the leaves and know instantly if it's dinner or a predator. They look at the river and read the currents like a book. Because they live in the jungle, death is everywhere. It's in the water, it's in the trees, it's in the insects. And because death is always right there, they don't fear it. In Greene's words, now, as he looked back on the same incidents that had troubled him before, he could see them in a new light. Living so closely to death on a daily basis, the jungle was teeming with dangers and diseases. They had developed a rather stoic attitude. They could not afford to waste time or energy on mourning rituals or on too much empathy. They could sense when someone was going to die, and being certain that the infant the Everetts had tried to nurse was doomed, they thought it easier and better to hasten its death and not look back. The village men who had thought of killing him had heard that he did not like their drinking. They feared that he was yet another outsider who was going to impose his values and authority on them. They had their reasons for behaving as they did, but only with time could he see them clearly. To the Pirahã, death was part of life, coming sooner rather than later, and it was not to be feared, whether it arrives at the age of 2, 42, or 82. In fact, it may be hastened in the pursuit of ending a person's suffering. To us, that sounds monstrous. It sounds cold. But to them, suffering is pointless. If the end is coming, let it come. They don't waste energy on prolonged mourning rituals. They understand that death is just the other side of the coin. It happens at the age of 2, 42, or 82. It doesn't matter when it happens, only that it's a natural part of the deal. They don't try to cheat the house, they just play the hand. Now, it's easy for us to sit here in our air-conditioned rooms and talk about how noble that is. It's easy to romanticize death when it isn't staring us in the face. But when we're in the middle of a grim season, when we're watching our own family members call it quits early, it gets complicated. We've all said it. We hear someone died suddenly, maybe a heart attack in their sleep, and we say, at least they didn't suffer. We say it was a blessing. We say that because we know the alternative. We know that a diagnosis that gives you 2 months is often more merciful than one that gives you 2 years. 2 years of pain, 2 years of treatments that ravage your body, 2 years of slowly losing your dignity. In our heads, we know this. We know that quality matters more than quantity. But that is an uncomfortable truth. What if I were the one in that bed? I would talk a big game right now. I would tell you that I want to go out on my own terms, before the pain gets too bad, before I become a burden to my family. I would tell you that I don't want my existence to become an inconvenience for the people I love. But when the time comes, I bet I would fight. I would cling to every single breath, trade my dignity for just one more afternoon, take the pain if it meant I could watch one more movie, one more TV show, or eat one more decent meal. We are wired to survive. We are wired to stay. So we'll likely keep doing exactly what we're doing. We'll keep eating the poison, we'll keep taking the pills, and we'll keep praying for a miracle. We'll drag ourselves down the road until the wheels fall off. And the people who love us will stand by the bed, holding our hands, smiling bravely. But deep down, in the quiet parts of their minds, they might be wishing there was a cliff nearby.